I believe we are ready to start. If everyone can get into the door, and what a wonderful surprise to see this room full. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome you on behalf of the Detroit Lakes League of Women Voters to our Meet the Candidates meeting this evening. I'd like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for helping us prepare and advertise this event, and obviously they've done a good job because we have a nice turnout here tonight. And I'd also like to thank the police department for allowing us to use this excellent facility. And I'd, of course, to give thanks to Kevin Mitchell, who is going to be filming this whole event. So I would ask that you all keep that in mind and keep the audience quiet so that it is live recording. I'd like to just to tell you briefly, League of Women Voters is a 101-year-old membership organization. We are a nonpartisan, nonprofit focused on grassroots voter education, and we encourage educated and informed participation in government, and we influence public policy through education and advocacy. The League does not endorse candidates for office or political parties. Our Meet the Candidates meeting are an opportunity for the candidates to express their ideas. They are not the ideas of League of Women Voters. They come from the candidates, and they are, it is an informational time for you to get to know these people, and it is not a debate. So tonight we will hear the expressions and the concerns and interests of these candidates. Membership is open to all. If you are interested, talk to any League of Women Voters this evening, and they can fill you in on how to do it. Men and women are both welcome to be members. Please silence your cell phones. As I mentioned, the forum is being recorded, and it will be available to be viewed on the League of Women Voters Facebook site. So, we're going to start out this evening with the candidates for the office of our county sheriff. And I'm going to ask that each of the candidates introduce themselves. The candidates will each have a 2-minute opportunity. The questions that will be asked will be responded within 2 minutes. We have timers sitting right here in the front row. Will you ladies raise your hands? We have Bonnie Graham, we have Deanna Sinclair, and we have Marietta Keenan, and they are serious about this. Would you show them the first card that you had that you will see? 30 seconds. Okay, that means start wrapping. What's the next one? 15 seconds, that's about a sentence to close, and then, and they're not kidding, stop. So we ask that all of you observe these signs. Oh, stop now. Oh boy. If you get that sign, it's pretty serious. I trust that won't be necessary. The candidates will be speaking in alternate orders so that each candidate will get a chance to be the first person to speak and to do the the closing of the question. And we're going to start with the sheriff candidates, and as a protocol, we'll start with the incumbent, Todd Glander, and if Todd, if you would start by just telling us a bit about yourself.
Well, thank you, and I'd like to thank everyone for being here and the League of Women Voters for inviting me. My name is Todd Glander. I was born and raised here in Detroit Lakes, just a couple miles east of town. Graduating from Detroit Lakes in 1984, I received my law enforcement training while I was working full-time in the jail. Went to school part-time to get licensed. And after being licensed, I started with the Detroit Lakes Police Department in 1993. And I was there from 93 until 2006. During that time, I was a field training officer, firearms instructor, and I also worked in the school for 1 year as a school resource officer. In 2006, I went back to the sheriff's office because I wanted to finish my career where I started, and I became a sergeant in 2013. During my career there, I was also a field training officer, firearms instructor, and was certified at Neighborhood Watch. After becoming a sergeant in 2013, I knew that the current sheriff at that time could no longer run in 2014. So I felt that was my time to put my name in for sheriff, and thankfully I was elected in 2014, taking office in 2015. During my last 8 years, I've enjoyed every minute of it, and I am looking forward to serving you the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd Glander. Chad Peterson.
Hello, and I'd also like to thank everybody for having us here to speak. My name is Chad Peterson. I was born and raised in Detroit Lakes, actually rural Audubon, south of Audubon. Graduated from Lake Park Audubon High School in 1992. Got married, had 3 kids. They're all growing now out of the house, Austin, Summer, and Gunner. I'm a grandfather. I graduated from Alexandria Technical College in 2000, and in 2003, I became a deputy from Monoman County. I worked for Monoman County for 8 years, and while working for Monoman County, I was a taser instructor and a use of force instructor. There I also received awards for 2009 MPPOA, Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association Officer of the Year, the Minnesota Sheriff's Association Medal of Valor, Monoman County Medal of Honor. I wanted to come back to Becker County, where I was born and raised, back home. I was hired on the Sheriff's Office here in 2011. During that time, I worked there till 2021, and now I'm currently working for the city of Lake Park.
Thank you, Chad Peterson. The next question, the first question actually, what are the most critical issues facing Becker County, and what policies will you implement to address them? And we'll start with you, Chad.
Okay. For the sheriff's office right now, one of the major critical things that we're dealing with is a shortage of a hiring pool. There's not a lot of people looking to get into this profession anymore. When I was applying for Becker County, I was going against probably 79 applicants, 80 applicants. And now I think the applicant list is anywhere between 4 to 11. Is that about correct? That's from what I heard. The interest ain't there no more. You have to have a department with a reputation to work for. We have a beautiful county. We have good officers, good deputies. We have a good staff. We have to get that out there to let them know that this is a place to work. The other incidents I like to address, what I do as sheriff, being that I worked for the sheriff's office for 11 years. We have to have consistency, and we have to have communication. That's been weak when I was there. We need better opportunity for deputies to train, to get the training they need, and also to have them take ownership into the department. You got to build a solid base. And with that solid base, then you can go out and serve the community better. If you don't have that solid base, things start to falter and things are inconsistent. And we have an inconsistency in the sheriff's office. The last thing I'd like to address real quick, whether you be firefighter, EMS, LE, you go through this career and you're going to leave scarred. That's just the nature of the beast. That's what we do. I would like to address mental health. I'd like to implement a program that the deputies and staff can achieve, go see counseling and take the time they need to get better, and they don't have to worry about costs or the time they need to get better.
Okay. And Todd Glander.
Would you repeat the question?
What are the most critical issues facing Becker County, and what policies will you implement to address them?
Okay, thank you. Staffing has been an issue, and I can say that as of today, this morning at 10 o'clock, I hired my last current opening, number 5, which I'm very thankful for. Even though we've had a shortage of staff, I can tell you that in the last 2 years, for example, we've been down as many as 7 for various reasons, COVID and other leaves of absence. And my staff, I'm very grateful for the staff that I do have. They have let no call go unresponded. And it is tough to get qualified, good candidates now. Where when I started in 2006, I think we had over 30 applicants for one position. I had a listing for 3 positions, and I had 10 applicants. So that just shows you over the last few years what has happened. So again, I'm thankful that we're going to be up to staff after the last hiring, and we do have opportunities for training. We always have. We have the mandated training, plus we have opportunities for those who want to further their training. Mental health, I agree, that is one challenge that we have faced and we are going to be facing in the future. We currently have an employee assistance program with the county. When people become employees of Becker County, they are given that information of the employee assistance program, which is a certain amount of that is free. I am also working with Beltrami County as far as sorry, I got a 15 and a 30. So we are looking at ways to not only help with mental health, but also heart health. That has been researched that is an issue also. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of you picked up little paper notes on the way in, and if you have a question we may try to get to it at the end if we have time. If you have a question and you want to raise your hand, and Marcia Potvin will come and pick up your question. And the next question, we start with Todd Glander. How do you see the Sheriff's Department interacting with local businesses? How will you reach out and interact with area business?
We already have good relationships with area businesses. I know the deputies, they do frequent, for example, Two Inlet Store. It's one of the businesses that's probably the furthest away from our office. Cormorant Store. There's many different businesses that have reached out to me for different types of presentations, extra patrol requests at certain times. I feel that they do have a good relationship with us and us with them. And I'll continue that in the next 4 years.
Thank you. Chad Peterson, how do you see the Sheriff's Department interacting with local businesses? And how will you reach out to interact with area business?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with Todd. The deputies do go around a lot to different areas. The best thing you do is have an open door policy, get to know the business owners a little bit better, frequent different businesses. I know we as a deputy, we kind of hang around the DL area for supper and everything like that, just for the fact that if we can't really sit down and eat at a restaurant for the time limit that's available because of call. But an open door policy, get to know, make sure that the owners know who you are and they can contact you about any issues that they have.
Thank you, Chad. Chad, I think this issue has been covered a bit, but perhaps to finalize it, how do you as a supervisor plan to address the needs of your personnel in the areas of mental health, stress, and burnout in this career?
Yeah, there's several departments that are now addressing that. The BCA actually has a program called Shoulders to Head, where they focus on mental health, they focus on heart health, as Sheriff Glander said, and also the financial responsibility. It would be good to look at some of these programs to see what worked best for the county of Becker and implement them.
And Todd Glander?
Yeah, just to reiterate what I said earlier with the heart health and mental health, along with our employee assistance program, again, there's programs out there that I'm looking into. I reached out to other sheriffs, and part of the problem is the funding for these resources. So I'm looking at different ways to fund that, whether it be through forfeited funds or restricted funds, but there are different ways that I'm looking at. Thanks.
Thank you. And Todd, we've touched on this a bit too, but perhaps to put a finer point, one of the biggest challenges that law enforcement is facing is recruitment and retention of personnel. How do you plan to address that in Becker County?
Yeah, again, it has become a problem just in the recent last couple of years, 3 years, and this is statewide, nationwide. And it's not just with our deputies, it's with our dispatching and corrections. Up until recently, we were 5 down in corrections. We lost staff to the private sector. I had one that went for a $7 raise driving for a local sanitation company. It's hard to compete with that, especially when you expect people to work nights. So we are looking at, along with the commissioners and the board, possibly getting a shift differential for different shifts, afternoon shift, evening shift, and then on weekends as well. So we are hopeful that that will help with the staffing. It may not be a catch-all for everything, but we are looking at ways to help with that.
Thank you. Chad Peterson, how do you plan to address the recruitment and retention of personnel in Becker County?
Yeah. Pay would be one thing. There's no way around it. We're going to have to look at pay. You're going to be competing with other agencies that are all going up in pay. Pay is one, and like I said, you can sell this community. You have everything here that a person could actually need and want. You know, you have your forest, you have your recreational, you have your hunting. Even if you wanted to do a little bit of farming, you have that. So you have a good sell with the area, and you have to build a good reputation with the sheriff's office as a place to want to come work for. That's the main thing. You gotta want people to recruit for your department that's not even working for your department. Say, hey, I heard that's Becker County, that's the place to work at. And you want that reputation.
Okay. Thank you, Chad Peterson. Chad, social media has become a challenge for law enforcement, with every arrest or confrontation publicized within minutes of it happening, and often portraying the enforcement as the bad guy. How do you plan on combating the potential negative effects of that? Well,
Becker County is blessed with good deputies. They truly are. Every deputy that's worked for Becker County, there is no issue with how they interact with the public. They do their job, and they do their job very well. You know, they go to they stand to the level of professionalism that one would expect. So there's really no issue with that with the deputies that we have now.
Todd Glander, how do you plan on combating the potential negative effects of the bad publicity from the social media?
Well, I appreciate Chad for saying, you know, that we have good deputies, and I am very blessed to have the deputies that I do have, along with other staff in different departments. One thing that we have added is body-worn cameras. They're very expensive, but it was something that we, along with other departments, felt that with the times that we're in, it's something that we had to do. We have our mobile cameras in our squads. I mean, we know that everywhere you go now, there's a camera, and cell phones. Just in my career as an officer, we've gone from cell phones to there's sometimes a camera on every street corner. So we are always being watched, and we understand that. But we can also use those cameras if we do get a complaint to say, no, this is what our deputy did and why. And sometimes we've had to do that as well, show people that it's not just to catch people doing something wrong, but it's also to protect ourselves. Thanks.
Thank you. And Todd, the next question is yours first. When people with mental health issues interact with law enforcement, the outcomes can be tragic. What should the sheriff's office do, if anything, to improve the outcomes of interactions with people with mental health issues?
So again, just in the last couple of years, there's been legislative changes regarding that. There's some departments that don't respond to, for example, a suicidal person. I am not one to not respond, but our response has been different compared to what it was a few years ago. We also have to realize that our number one defense or offense is our mouth. You don't just go in and grab onto somebody that's going through a mental health episode. You start with your mouth and find out what's going on. You communicate with family, with other members who may know what that person is going through, has gone through. So we have changed our way of thinking as far as responding and what to do when we get to that call.
Thank you. And Chad Peterson, what should the sheriff's office do, if anything, to improve the outcome of interactions with people with mental health issues?
Things are already in place for that, as Sheriff Glander said. There's training that's mandatory that every law enforcement officer does. Around here in the rural areas, even the city where I work, we do respond to mental health situations. And it's about getting to know, talking people down if they need to be talked down, kind of find out what the real issue is. Sometimes you might be there 15 minutes to get handled. Sometimes you might have to spend about an hour to calm things down. And it all depends what the resources are too. If someone is not taking their medication, you're going to have to, try to talk them into your car and bring them to the hospital so they can get evaluated and get back on their medication. And that all depends on how much of a threat they are to themselves and others. So it's just a matter of kind of evaluating the situation, and everyone that I've worked with throughout my career has always been doing that, and everyone's been doing a good job. It's just kind of taking each situation to what it is, and each situation is a little different.
Thank you. And Chad, how would your officers be trained to be sensitive in dealing with our diverse population?
Again, we're blessed with good officers and deputies in this county. They have, and I can see always will, handle diversity very well. The officers and deputies in this community are very respectful, and they do the good thing. There's not an issue with that.
And Sheriff Glander, how are your officers trained to be sensitive in dealing with our diverse population?
Every 3 years, we have 48 credits that we have to take for additional education. 16 of those credits have to do with mental health, cultural diversity. It's just, it's kind of where we're at now. And again, you'll hear this from me many times tonight. I am very blessed with the people that I have working for me. We do and have handled these situations well. And again, it's all just a change of the way we do things now. But we'll continue to do that in our office.
Thank you. And then, Sheriff Glander, how do you balance the public's right to free speech versus violent and/or criminal behavior?
So some of you may remember a couple years ago, we had a situation right on Veterans Memorial Parkway. And we had a lot of angry people. They were gathering, it seems like, it didn't take very long, and all of a sudden we had two groups of people that were saying things about each other, at each other, and between a couple commissioners, county administrator at that time, the Detroit Lakes Police Chief and myself, we came up with a plan, and we actually came up with a curfew, a 9 o'clock curfew for everybody. But it was about how we communicated with the two different groups, and ultimately resulted in nobody was hurt, everybody went home, and by the time we were done, the streets were cleared. And I felt that was a success. But again, it's through communication with different agencies, different people in the community, and again, I'll continue that. Thanks.
Thank you. And Chad Peterson, how do you balance the public's right to free speech versus violent and/or criminal behavior?
Well, it's the fine line for criminal behavior and free speech. Everyone's entitled to free speech. Everyone has the opportunity to get up and talk and say what's on their mind. Now, when it crosses that line to criminal, you can kind of take disorderly conduct out of that equation now, and disorderly conduct is boisterous behavior, swearing, yelling. For free speech, that's kind of not the norm anymore. So you're going to have to look for criminal behavior when someone's trying to incite a fight, a riot, trying to cause damage or doing damage, vandalism. So, and you just got to know the difference between the two.
Thank you, Chad Peterson. And then, Chad Peterson, do you feel that building a new jail was the right decision, and why?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Do you feel that building a new jail was the right decision, and why?
Absolutely, it was. The jail that we had was very outdated. It was actually to the point of being dangerous for the staff and inmates. It was the right decision to do.
And Todd Glander?
You took my line there, Chad. No, and like Chad said, it was getting dangerous to the point where it was not only dangerous for staff, but inmates as well. We are there to care for our inmates and make sure that they stay well. We went from a linear jail where you can basically see down one hallway at a time without cameras, to a modular or pod style jail where there are certain places within the jail that you can see all the cells at one time. Which is, again, much more safe for not only staff, but inmates as well. And I will say that we went from budgeting $600,000 for boarding out inmates to last year we took in $536,000. So $1.1 million turnaround. This year we are on track to bring in $300,000. It's down because of staffing, I'll say that. But I commend the correctional officers that work there. They've stepped up. Sometimes, they're working constantly, not just booking in inmates, but there's other things that happen in the jail. But again, we'll be bringing in hopefully $300,000.
Thank you. And Todd Glander, is there really a drug problem in Becker County? And what are your plans as sheriff to deal with the problem?
Yes, unfortunately, the drug problem is nationwide. Not only with, in my career, I remember when going to coffee and we found a joint in a car, that was kind of a high five. You would be talking about that. Now, I think back and wow, that was a good catch, so to speak. Now we've been dealing with meth over the last several years and into the opioid, heroin, now fentanyl. Fentanyl is very lethal with small amounts. I just lost my train of thought. We are in 2021, Becker County was number 12 in drug arrests in the state. And that is to include the metro counties. We were ahead of Carver County in drug arrests. And that includes all the agencies in the county, Frazee, Lake Park, Audubon, the tribal police. We work hand in hand with all these agencies. We are not only on the West Central Minnesota Drug Task Force, which is a state task force, we are also on the Headwater Safe Trails Task Force. We've been there since I think it was 2018 we joined that. And we are on the Headwaters Safe Trails Task Force because there's a nexus to Indian land, White Earth. So again, we work cohesively with these different agencies and we'll continue to do that.
And Chad Peterson, is there really a drug problem in Becker County? And what are your plans as the sheriff to deal with the problem?
Yes, there is a drug problem. As Todd said, nationwide, drugs have kind of surfaced in everyone's lives. I think everybody in this room knows somebody that has a family member that's an addict or a recovering addict. And it's sad, you know, as a road deputy, I seen that, and you know, talking with the family members because they're at their wits' end, it's tough. So it definitely needs to be combated. Again, we are blessed with 2 narcotics officers that work with other agencies, and they do a fine, bang-up job. They are good at what they do. We could use more of them. What we did on the road, we still implement it today. We know where the drug trafficking is coming from. We know where the houses are. We know where the tweakers live. We know what needs to be stopped. For road deputies, when it's a slow night, they go out there and they make traffic stops. They do what they need to do. They keep a close eye on them, because when you have that kind of activity, you're also going to have property crime. They go hand in hand. And you curb the property crimes, and you curb the drug crimes by making them not want to be around that area, and kind of shoo them away. That's about the only thing we can do, is besides relying on the task force to do what they do and do their magic. And like I said, they do it very well.
Thank you. Then, Chad Peterson, what is your greatest achievement as a law enforcement officer?
I made it through almost 20 years already. There's so many achievements one does. It's a very fulfilling career. It really is, working with people. I have commendations in my file of thank yous from families and people. There's people actually came up to me and thanked me for me being there in their time of need. We just got to remember, as law enforcement, we get used to it. We get used to us. We get used to going to calls like a 9-to-5 job. It's kind of normal for us. But that one person that calls us probably never had a deputy or a cop in their place before, and we got to remember how to handle it that way, and to treat that person how we'd want our family to be treated. So, but it's a very rewarding job, and I can't name one instance. There's many of them.
Thank you. And Todd Glander, what is your greatest achievement as a law enforcement officer?
Again, I would say there's so many to even look back at. Number one, here I go again, being blessed with the staff that I have. I guess the greatest achievement is I met my goal back in 2013 when I became sergeant. That was my goal when I started this career, that someday I wanted to be a sergeant or a lieutenant, a night supervisor. And I made that goal, and I enjoyed every minute of being sergeant. What I'm doing here now, this is truly a bonus. I can't be thankful enough where I'm at. With the support of friends and family, I wouldn't be here today. And I've been thankful to be selected by my peers with the Minnesota Sheriff's Association to be their District 1 director, which is the Northwest 15 counties. I've been there since 2018 in that position. And I think one of the things that probably is the most emotional to me is when a 3-year-old little girl comes up to me and the mom says, "Who is that?" And I've never met this person in my life, and she says, "That's Sheriff Todd Glander." And I've had many names over the years. So, but it's very rewarding, and again, I'm thankful to be here, and hopefully I'll be here in the next 4 years.
Thank you. And now in closing, for kind of closing remarks, if you gentlemen would, in your closing, describe when you felt like you made a real difference in the lives of Becker County residents. And we'll start with Sheriff Glander.
Oh, boy. Good question. Again, when little kids come up to you and can make comments to you, another little girl came up to me after I did a reading presentation and said, "Boy, you're really bald." And I couldn't believe it, but she was right. But I'm sorry, Sharon, can you tell me again what the?
Just kind of in your closing remarks, and can you tell when you felt you made a real difference in the lives of Becker County
Yeah.
residents?
Obviously, that's one. When little kids come up to you, or, when people just come up and want to stop in the office and have a cup of coffee with you, I feel that I've made a difference. When I can look back and say we're number 12 in drug arrest in this county, that to me, that's amazing. To have Becker County, again, we've had a lot of help and citizens as well. If not for the citizens, we would not be getting this information. But just having the people on my staff it tells me that I'm making a difference. And having people from Hennepin County, White Earth, Frazee, St. Cloud wanting to come and work for me, just in the last 5 hires, to me, I'm very grateful and thankful for that. Again, I want to thank you all for being here, and again, looking forward to serving you the next 4 years.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you to both of our sheriff's candidates for their contributions this evening. Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah, Chad didn't get a chance.
Yeah. I thought that was good, so.
I am so sorry.
It's all right.
I really screwed up. Chad Peterson, we would like to hear your closing remarks and the contributions you've made in the lives of Becker County residents.
Like I said, there's a lot of instances. I saw me and my partner Sid over there, he's back there. We worked hand in hand, and our thing was property crimes, and for the last years until he retired, we did very good for solving burglaries, catching burglars in the act, building good cases, building them up so the investigators could take over and get it done in quick, short order. But one comes to mind quickly was a welfare check. The wife called, said, my soon-to-be ex-husband's acting funny, and he has my kids. My partner and I roll up to the house like it's a normal welfare check, and we knock on the door, and I'm talking to the kids. And then the girlfriend comes out, he's got a gun, he comes running out, and he has a gun in the back of his waist. Darren, or my partner, draws down on him, and I end up taking a taser, and he's not listening, I hit him with the taser. We get the gun away from him and take him in for an eval. That gentleman made contact with me several times after that, thanking me very much for what we had done and how we helped him. So that's one thing that rings through my head. So.
Thank you. Thank you to both of you gentlemen, and let's all give them a round of applause.
Thank you.
I apologize.
That's all right.
All right, we will now move on to the county commissioner candidates, and we'll see how I can goof this one up a little bit as we begin our round of questions. And again, I would mention that if you have questions that you'd like to present, please raise your hand. And one of our League of Women Voters who are picking up questions tonight, we have Mary Haney, Marcia Potvin, and Beth Priday, who will be looking for you for questions. I'd also like to thank Cindy Bruflot, Kathy Coyle, and Madeline Suki, who have been here to help and be greeters this evening. So, we are going to follow the same procedure. We will speak in rotation, and our first question, our first 2 minutes will be given to introductions. And along with the protocol, we will do the courtesy of the incumbent being the first speaker. Mr. Ben Grimsley. I'm off to a bad start, Ben.
Thank you, Mrs. Sinclair, and thank you all for coming here this evening, and I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Chamber for co-hosting the event, and the Police Department for making the space available. My name is Ben Grimsley. I'm a 6th-generation resident of Detroit Lakes and married with 3 children, 2 boys and a girl. I'm a financial advisor and own my own business, Anchor Financial Services, where I specialize in wealth management and retirement funding and Medicare insurance sales. I was elected to the board in 2012 and have been elected subsequently 2 times since then, so I'm serving in my 3rd term. For hobbies, my family and I like to spend our time at our lake cabin and going to all the events in Detroit Lakes. We enjoy going to all the wonderful parks around here. And I really enjoy the commissioner work that we do. I'd like to let you guys know I honestly believe Becker County residents are better off now than they were 10 years ago. And that's not just subjective. We do have our bond rating has improved from A to AA to AA+. We've gone from being the 22nd lowest taxed property tax county in the state to the 16th. And our board has worked collaboratively together to update a lot of different infrastructure. You heard about the jail tonight. We're building a new highway department. We have a new waste transfer department. The roads in the city have been completely updated. The ones that the county owns are in the process of being updated. And I don't think my opponent has any particular advantage over me for getting this job done. I've got the experiential knowledge in order to keep working for you. And I'm not just working so that my children have a better place, in their lifetime. It's for myself and all of you right now to make your lives all better. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer.
Hello, I'm David Meyer, and obviously I'm running against Ben for District 2 Becker County Commissioner. I'd like to thank everybody for being here tonight. I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters, the Police Department, the Chamber of Commerce, because this is a great opportunity for you guys to meet us and find out what we're all about. I'm a lifelong resident of Detroit Lakes. I grew up here. I've lived here almost all my life, except when I was trying to find jobs. Then I came back here in 1997, and I've been here ever since then. I own a local business in town for the past 17 years. I've also been a teacher, which I currently am, but still a teacher and a business owner at Detroit Lakes High School. I believe that those experiences have really prepared me to have an opportunity to be a county commissioner. I have the ability to develop positive relationships with employees and colleagues. And I think that's a big deal when you get into the situation where you're working with employees and you're trying to be a leader to them. If there's not a relationship there, then there is not a possibility for things to happen positively. And I also would like to say that as a business owner, I've had the opportunity to develop the ability to manage money and budget money. And if I wasn't been able to do that, I wouldn't have a business for 17 years and still operating it. So I think I've done a fairly good job of that. And anyway, I'd like to also thank the union, because they have endorsed me. And I think that's a huge deal, because one of the big concerns that I have is the fact that people are not staying in Becker County and still working here. So I think the relationship has already been started by me being endorsed by the union.
Thank you, David Meyer. Craig Hall.
Well, good evening. My name is Craig Hall. Running for County Commissioner, District 1. My background, growing up and lived in Becker County my entire life. I was the engineering manager of Team Industries. Started out at their plant in Audubon, moved on and took over the plant in Park Rapids. Built that up. Then in May of 2009, decided to take a new leap of faith and start my own company. So I started a company called Manufacturing Solutions. We're very much an engineering-driven company again. Manufacturing's been kind of my whole life. Once I got into my professional career, built that up for the next 10 years, had about 50 employees. During that time period, I was also, I served on the Highland Township Board. I've been on that for 12 years. Worked in, I'll say, every aspect of supervision of what we need to take care of for roads, infrastructure, et cetera, for the residents. I've also served in several other, what I would consider public service entities. I've been on the Snowmobile Club, been on the Sportsman Club, worked on behalf of our local church, and now I've kind of looked at the next phase and said, this might be the next entity to take on as a way to try and help serve the community, providing a service I think I'm very good at, understanding how to manage money, how to manage people, and how to represent other people's interests. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson.
Hello and good evening. I also want to thank the League of Women's Voters and the DL Chamber Conference and the DLPD for having us tonight, and thank you all for coming. So I'm Erica Jepson, running for Becker County Commissioner District 1. My husband and I own a farm in Evergreen Township, where I'm also a sixth-generation resident for Evergreen Township. So a little bit about my background. I have a degree in social work. I am a former employee of Becker County Human Services. I have dedicated 11 years of my career to the human services field. I started in at White Earth Indian Child Welfare, where I worked there for 2 years. And for the last, for 8.5 years, I worked at Becker County Human Services, and I'm currently employed by the Minnesota Department of Human Services as a child welfare subject matter expert. Some of the things that I will bring to the commissioner, or bring to the board, is a knowledge not held by any other commissioner. There is currently nobody on the board that has a human services experience, which I think is important for, as the largest department in the county, we need to have somebody that is, understands the programs, understands how they work, how the funding works, so that they know how the decisions they make affect those served by human services. I will also make fiscally informed decisions with the best interest of District 1 in mind. I'm also running on being a transparent, accessible board member. I was asked to run by the employees because of the concerns that they have in our employee crisis that's going on. I would also like to thank our union for endorsing me, as well as Tim Clements. So, thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. The first speaker on the next question will be David Meyer. What characteristics and experiences distinguish you from your opponent?
Well, as I previously stated, I've been a business owner in Detroit Lakes for the past 17 years, and I am a teacher at Detroit Lakes High School for the past 25 years. One of the concerns that I think is huge in the county right now is the fact that people are leaving the county, they're not staying here, they're not happy being here, and I have the ability, because of those two experiences, to develop positive professional relationships with employees and colleagues. And if you are going to get employees to do things and work and serve the citizens of Becker County positively, then there has to be a relationship with the leadership. If there is not, then they're not going to want to be here. And I think that's one thing that I have the ability to do, and I think my opponent has not done that in the past 10 years.
Thank you, David Meyer. The next speaker on the question of what characteristics and experiences distinguish you from your opponent will be Craig Hall.
My experience, I believe, in managing people and managing money is going to speak for itself. I've had a very successful business, built it up to being literally over 9 different states, growing and doing business on I'll say a national and an international level. It's given me the understanding of how to relate to customers, how to relate to employees, how to build them up to service a customer base that is significant and diverse. And that's something we've definitely got going on here. Any level of government, you need to have someone who has the knowledge, who has the experience, and has the ability to deliver on commitments that are made to other people. Because that's all this is. This isn't about these 4 people that are sitting up here or the 2 that just left. It's about picking people that have the knowledge and the experience to represent you, to help manage your money and make sure that it's being put to good use. And I think my experience is second to none in that area.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, what characteristics and experiences distinguish you from your opponent?
As a former Becker County employee, I was a union steward for 5 years, as well as a member of the Labor Management Committee. I've also been a government employee for 11 years. So I know and understand how the government works. I know how our local county government works, which is important. I am a social worker, so I advocate for people's needs. And I think as a commissioner, we need to know how to meet the needs of our community. One of the jobs is to, yes, manage money and manage the budget, but it's also to ensure that the needs of our community are met. And that is something I am prepared to do as the Becker County District 1 Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, what characteristics and experiences distinguish you from your opponent?
Thank you. I was civically engaged at a young age. I was elected when I was 25, and I was interested in politics prior to that. And I don't know if I've seen my opponent, well, I haven't, at any county board meetings. And so that's one thing. The other thing is I work with clients my whole life since I got out of college. I've got paid just, making my own money. I didn't work for anybody. So I'm responsive to their needs. I do find out what's important to them and how I can manage their money or best fit their needs. They call, I answer the phone, I tell people I'm very accessible. And I just wanted to address, while I've got some time, this idea about a union. We have 8 collective bargaining units, not just one. So if my opponent, is endorsed or believes he's endorsed, I don't know if they do endorse people, it would probably be 1 out of the 8 collective bargaining units. The other thing is, we, as a board of directors, and Craig was alluding to this a little bit, we operate as a board of directors and we hire the CEO. I don't think the administrator or the person that's managing the supervisors and department heads wants county board members that are there to make long budget range, futuristic decisions, getting involved in day-to-day operations. And I'd just like to make that contrast for you guys as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. Moving on to the next question, the first speaker will be Craig Hall. What are the most important challenges facing Becker County, and how do you propose to address them?
I think the biggest issues that I see, and from talking to the people in the eastern part of the county, are twofold. Number one, I've heard a lot of people bring up the concerns about public safety and roads and bridges. And both of those two things are the biggest reason why I decided to run after talking to people and hearing their concerns. If we want this community to stay a good place to live, work, and raise a family, we need to have the infrastructure and the safety element to be able to allow that. If people are going to be able to get to work in the morning, they need the roads to be plowed. They need to be safe. We can't have any issues that are unnecessary on ways for people to get to work. I think that's a major issue. Number two, I think the public safety element is huge. All of us watch the news these days. If you don't, you should, and see what's going on in this country. There's a lot of issues, and right now we've got a situation where most evenings there's 1 or 2 officers on staff. I don't think that's enough. Listening to most people, they all say the same thing. We need to get more officers on duty, and in order to do that, you got to ask yourself, okay, so how are we going to address these things? One, either continue to raise taxes, which a lot of people have also brought up. We got to make sure we don't tax people out of their homes. So then you say, okay, how do we make some changes? And that's where I think you need to start looking at the budget and making tough decisions, and yet making smart decisions. So look for where there's waste, fraud, and abuse and address it.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, what are the most important challenges facing Becker County, and how do you propose to address them?
Well, I agree with Mr. Hall that public safety is definitely an issue. We do have a huge shortage in our sheriff's department. We're one of the busiest sheriff's department, yet one of the lowest staffed. I believe we're ranked 83 out of 87 for the number of deputies per capita. So that is absolutely something that we need to look at, because we have deputies out there that carry a lot on their shoulders, and we need to make sure that they have the support that they need to do their jobs the best way they can to keep the citizens of Becker County safe. One of the other issues that we have is I do believe we have an employee crisis. We've had close to 60 people that have resigned since the first of the year. Becker County has become a training county. They come to Becker County, we train them, they leave to go to other counties. We as taxpayers pay for that. We pay for the training of employees for them to leave. Like I said, as a union steward, I know what some of the issues are, and I want to work to make Becker County a great place to work again. So, thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, what are the most important challenges facing Becker County, and how do you propose to address them?
I think that the environment for workers has changed, and our sheriff mentioned how he has trouble getting applicants. And it's because of the work environment we're in since the pandemic. It seems like people are moving jobs, taking jobs where they can work remotely, or, you know, there's just fewer workers out there. People have retired. We're going to continue to be in that environment as people continue to exit the workforce and retire, the baby boomer generation. And so, you know, as strategic leaders, we need to create an environment where we are better than the rest of the counties or people after our employees. And that's something that I'll continue to be collaborating on, you know, in order to keep Becker County great. And you lose money when people are leaving. I did have some look into some statistics after a newspaper article made it sound like we were losing employees at a really great rate. And so Becker County has 379 full-time, part-time, and temporary employees. From December 31st of 2019 till July 28th of 22, 160 people left. That was over 31 months. That was 5.16 people per month. They didn't leave. A lot of them retired. From the first of the year until July, we had 46 people leave over the course of 8 months. That was 5.75 people per month. So over 3 years, we had 5.6. Over this year, we've had 5.75. You know, we're dealing with a changing work environment. The railroads have a tentative agreement, but they're looking at striking. The union, or the nurses union, you know, has struck. The Fargo Public School teachers had struck, and we're seeing those challenges all over the economy these days. So I'm going to continue to address that for you.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, what are the most important challenges facing Becker County, and how do you propose to address them?
So I agree with Craig and Erica that public safety is a huge issue in Becker County. We need to make sure that our law enforcement is taken care of. And currently we are short-staffed bad. And until that gets addressed and fixed, we could lose some deputies. But because Todd Glander has done a great job of making sure that his deputies are appreciated, and they're still there, and they work hard for him. The other issue that obviously is a big deal is there are, like Erica said, there is 60 people that have, at least 60 people that have left the county since the beginning of the year. Now that is a big problem. It's so hard to find good people, so you can't afford to lose good people. And the things that keep good people are competitive benefits, competitive pay, and appreciation to those employees. And the only way that you can show appreciation to those employees is to have a relationship with those employees. And if there's a disconnect between the leadership and the employees, then it's all bad. And until that is fixed, it is not going to get better. And I believe that me being supported by the union, and there is a union, I've already started to make that connection with the employees, and that relationship has already been started, so I have an advantage in that aspect.
Thank you, David Meyer. The next question, the first speaker will be Erica Jepson. What area of the county budget, if any, most needs to be increased? And what should be the spending priorities in the next 4 years?
I think it's absolutely our sheriff's department. As I said, we're one of the busiest sheriff's department, and we're one of the lowest staff. When I mentioned before the number of deputies per capita, that was considering our population here, not considering our summer population. So we're ranked 83 out of 87 for the number of deputies per capita. And that doesn't include our summer population, where our population almost doubles in the summertime. We have WeFest, we have 4th of July. We need to support our deputies. We need to ensure that they have the training and the support. It's difficult right now for deputies to take vacation, because they know when they take vacation, they're short on staff. So I really think that we need to look at the sheriff's department and increase it so that we can hopefully add additional deputies onto the roster. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, what area of the county budget, if any, most needs to be increased? And what would be the spending priorities in the next 4 years?
Thank you. There is no area where the budget needs to be increased, because if it did, we would do that. The sheriff's department over the last 2 years did get 2 new deputies and a new dispatch person, which we all fund with our property tax dollars. So they have had increases, and when I came on the board, they levied, we had allocated to that department about $5 million, and to human services, $6 million. That was, probably 10 years ago or so. Now they have over a $10 million budget, and human services is still at $7 million. So human services has the most employees. So the sheriff's department has been well supported by the county board and by you, the taxpayers. And, we do a good job with our budgets. The other thing is, we had between 5 and 5.5% levy increase this year, and that's because we negotiated with our 8 collective bargaining units and came up with a deal, so they wouldn't strike. And we actually allocated, we created a contract that was more than the county board had budgeted for, in order to really put something together for them. And so we're paying for that a little bit this year, and we tried to budget enough in order to get another 8 contracts with our collective bargaining units for this coming fiscal year. So that is really the cost drivers of the county. It's those general wage increases for all of our employees.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, what area of the county budget, if any, most needs to be increased, and what should be the spending priorities over the next 4 years?
Well, I'm a big proponent of law enforcement. And in order to make sure that our deputies are taken care of, they're not overworked, we need to get more deputies in Becker County. We are short-staffed in Becker County in our deputies. I've had discussions with Mr. Todd Glander, and it's bad. According to our population, we should have 34 deputies, and we have 24 deputies. So that is a problem. And I'm not saying that we're going to get 10 deputies overnight, but we need to do some things in the county budget to make sure that we can address that issue so that we can have better public safety for our Becker County citizens.
Thank you, David Myers. Craig Hall, what area of county budget, if any, most needs to be increased, and what would be your spending priorities over the next 4 years?
To me, I guess I'm going to agree with Erica and David. I believe the Sheriff's Department is the #1 area that needs to have an increase. I think it's very closely followed by the county highway department, as both areas I feel need some priority money shifted into those areas to address both of those, what I consider shortcomings that we all are facing. How would I address that? To me, again, I would look at the waste, fraud, and abuse. In some of the areas that I feel that those issues need to be coming from. And this is something that as a business owner, you do every day. Anytime you're in business, what do? You look for what things are not working, how do you make cuts, and how do you deliver on your commitments to your customers? And that's exactly what I would be doing in this role.
Thank you, Craig Hall. The next question, the first speaker will be Ben Grimsley. This spring, we heard of personnel challenges that are facing the county. Please share your thoughts on how to improve staff retention and improve morale.
Thank you. We need to hire the right managers and, offer our sincere thanks to county employees. I think when we do hire people, we need to be clear about what training is available, if there's, areas for advancement inside of our ranks, if there's education that they can get to move laterally, and just be very clear about what the role, where their job will be, because I think people do come here, they get some experience, and then they're on their computers looking for another job that pays more. I think that's very common in the whole economy. But with appreciation and the right managers, we can combat that. I did mention a little bit about, the turnover at Becker County. A lot of it has been retirement. And this year when I pulled this up, 15 out of the 46 people did take PERA retirement, and 5 failed their probationary period. So that was 20 out of the 46 people when I had looked into this that had changed jobs. And it was spurred on by that article, that spring newspaper article. So they could be explained. But I also think, having information, I did talk to some union stewards too and find out, what's going on, what is creating this discomfort. And it was a feeling that the ideas were not moving up the chain of command and getting to the county board, that ideas were kind of being suppressed. And so, information needs to flow. It's a two-way street. We need to take ideas from the people doing the jobs on the ground. But ultimately, we make the decision, and when those decisions are passed down, we don't want blame or, confusion. It just needs to, here was the reason the county board made this decision, here's how we're going to implement it, and we're going to continue to do our jobs.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, please share your thoughts on how to improve staff retention and improve morale at the county level.
I think there are two very distinctive things that can be done. First of all, the pay and the compensation for county employees need to be competitive. If it's not competitive, then there's no reason why people would stay and not have a competitive salary or competitive benefits, okay? The other thing is, if there is a relationship with the leadership and the employees, a positive professional relationship, then decisions can be made by the board that will, they might not agree with every decision, employees might not, but they're going to understand that the board is trying to do the best they can. Okay, and I think that's the most important thing. If there's a relationship, then there's going to be a positive atmosphere then positive decisions can be made. But the employees have to feel appreciated, they have to feel like they're wanted there, and they have to want to stay and work in Becker County. And right now, there are a lot of employees that do not want to do that. And that needs to be fixed. And if that is not fixed, it's going to continue to get worse.
Thank you, David Meyer. Craig Hall, please share your thoughts on how to improve staff retention and improve morale in county employees.
Well, to me, the big things when you're managing employees is everything's got to be the same. You can't show favoritism. There needs to be one policy. You need to have clear-cut expectation. And again, you need to treat everyone the same. If that's not happening, you will have dissension between the ranks. It's just a fact. It goes on in every business. Everybody is up against the same challenge these days. Unfortunately, we've started this culture of work from home, don't work, blah, blah, blah. We've seen it. You people know what's going on. We need to try and do our best to combat that. And a lot of that goes to what these other gentlemen are saying. You have to have a positive work environment. Again, that comes from clear direction, clear expectation, and obviously you need to be competitive in your wages and your benefits compared to the existing, I'll say the private sector that you have to compete against and other communities. But a lot of this goes to, and again, it's not going to fix it now, but when we're interviewing people, you got to find people who really want to live and work here. That's the single biggest thing you have to try and figure out. Do the people fit in? Is this someplace that they're going to want to be for a long time? If the answer is yes, everything else should be workable. But if they don't want to be here, good luck.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, please share your thoughts on how to improve staff retention and improve morale.
Thank you. I also just want to address one thing that Mr. Grimsley said in the previous question about the Sheriff's Department having 2 new deputies. I want to make note that prior to those 2 deputies coming, Becker County was dead last in the number of sheriffs per capita. So I just want to make sure that is known. As far as employee issues, I was a union steward for 5 years. I worked very closely with employees and with administration. And I think it comes down to the employees feeling valued. When you have county commissioners saying that employees are replaceable, and you have county commissioners in union negotiations saying that that's as much as they're gonna get, and if they don't like it, they can starve, employees are not gonna like it. Employees are gonna leave, and they're gonna find other opportunities. And that's where it needs to change. We need to have an administration that values our employees and they want to stay. Is it about the wages? Yes, maybe a certain amount, but really it is about being valued. One of the things we need to do is talk to the employees that left. Despite what our current administrator says that they're in the exit interviews, this is what was being said. I left in December. I never had an exit interview. I have talked to former employees. They did not have exit interviews. If we're not doing exit interviews, we don't know why people are leaving. And that's what we need to have. We need to understand why we have employees leaving so that we can have the best pool of employees possible to meet the needs of our county. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. The next question, the first speaker will be David Meyer. Affordable housing continues to be a significant challenge and hindrance to filling available jobs in greater Minnesota and Detroit Lakes. What role do you see the county EDA playing to support local communities in overcoming this deficit?
Well, currently, the county, excuse me, apparently I ran out of water. The county has a partnership with Mojave Ottawa, okay, to help homeless people. The biggest thing they try to do, that from what I understand, is they're trying to prevent people from getting to the homeless part. So they're trying to keep them in their homes. They have rent assistance. They have heating assistance or utility assistance. The other aspect is the MMCDC. Thank you very much. Is also partnering with the county to help first-time home buyers with down payments, with closing costs, and loans, and to help them with the loans. So when I was a business owner, when I first bought my business here in Detroit Lakes 17 years ago, I didn't go through the MMCDC, but I went through Community Capital Reinvestment Fund, and I was able to acquire a low-interest loan to help pay for my down payment. And that was a big deal for me. So I think that if we continue to do some of those things, and then we'll be able to help continue the partnership, we'll be able to help alleviate some of that. Now, there is still a problem in Becker County, so it needs to be addressed, and maybe the state can, or the federal government can offer more money to help with some of those programs. Thank you.
Thank you, David Meyer. Craig Hall, what role do you see the county EDA playing to support local communities in overcoming the housing deficit?
As little as possible. The government, if you look at everything what they're into, this is something I do not believe that the government should be involved in. Leave it up to the private sector, and the private sector will take care of this issue. When the government gets involved, everything gets more expensive, and normally we screw it up. This is not something I believe the government should be in, period.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, what role do you see the county EDA playing in overcoming the housing deficit?
I think affordable housing is a huge need in our county. Without affordable housing, our county's not going to grow. People aren't going to want to come and live here, and they're not going to, because they can't find housing, which means we're going to have a hard time filling positions. We need to look at the affordable housing in our county and support the programs that we have through MMCDC, through Muhubi, Ottawa, and continue to support them, because we have a huge need, and without that, how does our community grow? And it goes beyond low-income housing. I mean, our housing at the mid-income level is very difficult to find. So we need to do whatever we can do to help Becker County continue to grow. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, what role do you see the county EDA playing to support local communities and overcoming the housing deficit?
So right now we have a vacancy in our EDA director. The person retired and did a good job for us, but he was primarily more focused on recreation because he was funded by dual EDA funds and recreation funds. And our county EDA would be able to offer tax increment financing, tax credits, or gap financing through a revolving loan fund. We do have some American Rescue Plan Act dollars that we could maybe seed into a program like that. Dave did mention how we do have a revolving loan fund that does offer some down payment assistance through MMCDC. But I did recently make an appointment to our EDA board, a gentleman that had termed out on the Detroit Lakes Development Authority, and with a lot of experience there, so I'm looking forward to collaborating with him and the board and finding out what ideas come out of that appointment.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. The next question, the first speaker will be Craig Hall. Okay, let's see. In every sector in our local economy, employers have been challenged to find employees. What can be done to help employers address workforce shortages in our rural area?
It's a tough situation. Right now, I think the biggest thing what we need to do is figure out how do we get people back into the workforce. Right now, if you look at the labor participation rate, it's sitting roughly right around 61.4% nationwide. A lot of people have chosen to take easier paths. There's been some things that I've put out there and some statements, and I know I've taken heat for it, but I'm going to stand by it. We need people who are able to work to go to work. We need to make it so that there's a reason. You need to have a self-confidence. You need to have a little bit of self-pride. I think people, if you're willing and able to work, you need to have a job. There's a ton of great companies in this area. Team Industries, BTD, Lake Shirts, I can go on and on. Tons of good companies offering very, very good wages, very good benefits, struggling to grow because they can't get people. I think we need to figure out ways to get people back in the workforce. To me, the biggest area there where it starts is we've got to quit handing out all of this quote-unquote free money. And the free money is not coming from free. This is being spent on the backs of your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren. And as a society, we need to change that. We need to get back to people getting back into the workforce, being productive, and until that happens, I don't see much changing.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, what can be done to help employers address workforce shortages in our rural area?
Well, I think it comes down again to finding that affordable housing in our county. I also just want to make note that in Becker County currently, we have around 30 people, 30 people in Becker County that are currently receiving cash assistance that could be working. So we don't have hundreds of people in Becker County that are living off the government. We have a lot of people that are supplementing their income through food support and medical assistance, but they are not living off of the government in Becker County. So I think that we have a worker shortage throughout the whole country. We need to figure out what we can do to attract people to come to Becker County and work. I think that's the most important thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, what can be done to help employers address workforce shortages in our rural area?
I look at things like recreation and amenities. I've been on a committee that has been successful establishing part of the state-owned and maintained Heartland Trail. I've been on a committee that fundraised a large portion for the Becker County Museum. I've been actively involved in adding amenities to the Dunlocks County Park and getting a trail access agreement with the WeFest campgrounds. I also think the ideas I mentioned about affordable housing in my prior statements will help. And then Becker County has a daycare grant that would certainly help because there's a lot of daycare openings. We offer $10,000 of reimbursable cost for people looking to start a daycare, but they can't get over that hump. So we'd like more people to take advantage of that. I know Ecumen is looking at adding some daycare at their facility. And I just wanted to point out, Becker County's population increased by 8.2% since the prior census. And right now we're the 14th fastest growing county out of the 87 counties. So we're trying to do a good job. And we are actually taking in both international and domestic residents, whereas the state of Minnesota is losing people that were born here on a whole as a median and taking in a whole lot more international residents. So we're trying to do that, and I'm going to continue to do that to make this a great place to work and live so that we can continue to have our employers, including the county, have good, educated people that want to settle here.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. Let's see. David Meyer, have you spoken on this one?
No, I have not.
I did not think so. Okay. What can you do to help employers fill the workforce shortages?
So I am one of those businesses, rural businesses in rural Minnesota that has had a lot of troubles finding employees to work. Right now we're on a skeleton. We're not on a skeleton crew, but if somebody's unable to come to work for whatever reason, sometimes I have to call in favors to get people to come into work. So I totally understand that is an issue. I do, however, know that in July, when the Department of Economic and something development, I can't remember what it is. The unemployment rate in Becker County is 2.1% as of July. So that is not the problem. The problem is there are people that are not entering the workforce that are doing other things. I don't know what they're doing, but we've had to increase our wages to get people to be attracted to people to come to work for us. I own a business that sells food, and we've had to pay our cooks more money than I really want to, but that's what we have to do to get quality employees. And that's just the way it is. And I think that in order to get people into the workforce, we have to track them into the workforce, and that's one way we can do it. And then another way is we can offer benefits, we can offer incentives. You see a lot of businesses that offer incentives to people well, you can come in here, we'll pay you this, we'll help you move here, we'll help you with housing, okay, and so forth. I'm not saying that I want to do that as a business owner, but there are things like you have to do in order to get employees that are there. Then once you get those employees, you need to keep them. And to keep them, you have to have that positive professional relationship, and they have to feel appreciated to be working for you.
Thank you, David Meyer. Now, Erica Jepson will be the first speaker on this next question, and it's going to kind of combine a couple things that have come in here together. One of the questions, do you feel property taxes are too high, too low, or just right? Kind of the, yes.
Well, I'm married to a farmer.
We're not done yet.
Oh, sorry.
Then what are your ideas to increase county revenues and/or decrease county expenses? If you can kind of throw all that into one thought process there.
Thank you. As I said, I'm married to a farmer, so I understand the importance of keeping property taxes low. And I would say that, you know, we do have plenty high property taxes in Becker County. And I think that we can explore different ways of bringing in other revenue is to look at grants and what grants are out there to help supplement some of our income, whether it's from, or some of our, to supplement the expenses or how to pay for expenses by looking at federal and state government for grants to provide additional revenue so that we don't have to solely depend on our property taxes. I know that we do already take advantage of many grants, but I think that that's one thing that we can look at. So, thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, do you feel property taxes are too high, too low, just right, or what are your ideas to increase county revenues or decrease county expenses?
I think property taxes are just right, and I'd have to answer it that way because I'm working for you to dial that in. And that's a fun and very broad, challenging job. But as far as, you know, raising revenue, we go after a lot of grants, and Becker County is very successful at doing that. We do have the sales tax money that is strictly funds road improvements. And right now, only 1/3 of our county's budget is actually funded with property taxes. But they never go the other way. They always go up. You know, things get more expensive, and that's the unfortunate news. And like I said, a big driver is the collective bargaining unit agreements and setting that general wage increase. And you know, there was a lot of talk about wages over this period, but you know, every year we come to an agreement. It takes a negotiation, and so according to that, I would think that we've hit the nail on the head for wages, because I've heard it said when there's a compromise, both parties maybe aren't exactly comfortable or happy where they ended up, and I think that we've done that, and we'll continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, what are your ideas to increase county revenues or decrease county expenses, or what do you think of the property tax levels?
Well, obviously, I own a business, so I would like to not have any property tax, but that's not realistic. I would say that the property tax is about where it's going to be, and that's just the way things are. One way that we can generate revenue, when Todd Glander spoke earlier tonight, he said that by opening that new jail, they generated $583,000 in revenue the first year, and they saved $628,000 in that year. So what and how they did that is they didn't harbor prisoners out to other counties and have to pay the other counties to do that. They had them in their own county, and they also were able to bring in federal prisoners in their county so they could make money off of those federal prisoners. Now, it's going to be lower for this year because there are less employees, less jailers working, so they're not going to generate as much, but that is a possible way to generate funds. And I'd like to comment on the negotiation part. When you don't have a relationship with the employees and you negotiate and you tell them this is what it's going to be and you don't have a choice and we're done with this, there's not a compromise. So that is not what is happening in Becker County right now. Thank you.
Thank you, David Meyer. Craig Hall, what do you feel about property taxes, and what are your ideas about increasing county revenues or decreasing county expenses?
I think the property taxes are a little bit high. I'm not going to say they're exceptionally high, but I think they're getting to be high from what I'm hearing from several of the residents that's out there. That being said, it's pretty hard to reduce them when everybody's asking for more money. That being said, it's like, how do you increase revenue? Well, you increase revenue by promoting growth. And I think this county has, in the last couple of years, been very progressive in doing that. And that comes from more people moving in, more people wanting to be here. We need to continue to, again, make this to be a great place to live, work, and raise a family. So people want to move here. They want to be building hopefully multi-million-dollar homes on our lakes. We're getting more businesses moving into town. That's all in the revenue side. I also feel if you look at our county population, we're roughly 35,000 people. We spent about $18 million in the HHS department. That's an area that I think needs to be given some scrutiny and looked at aggressively for waste, fraud, and abuse. I don't know how many of you read the page 14 in the Detroit Lakes paper that came out yesterday. 47 people indicted. $250 million worth of fraud that was spent on the COVID money, supposedly for feeding our future. It was wasted. I think we all know there's some of that that's going on everywhere in government. When you start having that much money that's being thrown around, there's stuff in there that is waste, fraud, and abuse. And those are things that I'm going to try and aggressively work to eliminate and drive down cost.
Thank you, Craig Hall. For the next question, Ben Grimsley will be the first speaker. What proposal do you have to better manage zoning requests for large animal feedlot requests like the 3,000 pig one recently approved?
I've spoken to the residents that were going to be affected by this in Spring Creek Township a fair amount. One of the ideas is to make the owner of the facility live within a quarter section or a half section of where the proposed facility would be. So they would have some skin in the game as far as odors and making sure things are operating right. So that's something I'd be in favor of. And another one was making sure that the facility isn't on too small of a parcel of land, so that if things got toxic or well water turned bad, they couldn't just walk away from the facility and have to have, just go tax forfeit on it and have to have the county taxpayers do the remediation and clean it up. So that's another idea, is just limiting how much we subdivide those. And, I'm actively looking for more good ideas. I did want to mention regarding the property taxes, we went from being the 22nd lowest property tax county out of 87 counties to the 16th lowest. And Otter Tail County, who's somewhat comparable, a little bigger than us, they went from the 19th lowest to the 34th. So we headed in the right direction, and all of our neighboring counties headed in the wrong direction. And the way you do that is by having your county budget go up slower than the development that's happening in your county for new businesses and million-dollar houses and just everybody contributing. And in doing that, you can get, your taxes where they don't increase too much, where you're scared to look at your property tax bill every time we mail it out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, what proposal do you have to better manage zoning requests for large animal feedlots?
So in Becker County, if we need to have a consistent and unified policy for everybody on zoning. So whatever the policy is going to be, we can't have one township do this and one township do this and one township do this. It has to be uniform across the board, and that is what the policy needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you, David Meyer. Craig Hall, what proposal do you have to better manage zoning requests for large animal feedlots?
Well, representing a very much an agricultural district, which I consider District 1 to be, I think the county made a bad decision there. I live currently very close to Briard's Hog Farm. They have thousands and thousands of animals. I think they do a very good job with it. I also have the Ahos that are in my district that have the same thing, but in cattle. We all like to eat. I guarantee as I look around here and I say to myself, every one of us likes to eat. And sadly, we've got some people that are saying, well, not in my backyard. The EPA is the one that basically is the governing body that oversees all the aspects of this. These people are under immense amount of scrutiny. I took the vote, because I'm on the Planning Commission, to approve that going forward up where it was at in Callaway. We look at the areas, we make sure it fits within the locality. We make sure that all elements of it are taken care of and are adhered to as far as what the rules and the laws are. I think sometimes people take emotion into this and they really don't look at the facts. I didn't see any issue with it, and I think the county made a bad decision on putting a moratorium on it. You're really going to restrict the ability for our farmers to be able to continue to grow and to thrive. I don't think it was a good decision.
And Erica Jeffson, what proposal do you have to better manage zoning requests for large animal feedlots?
I think that, we need to look at our zoning ordinances. I do agree with Mr. Hall to an extent. I'm a farmer. I'm married to a farmer. We need to support farmers. Farmers are the future. They're the ones that supply our food. But we also need to, make sure that our zoning ordinances are aligned with our environment. We need to have some tribal input to make sure that their voices are heard in our zoning ordinances when it comes to potential large feedlots. I also wanted to go back to the previous question regarding the Health and Human Services budget. Yes, the Health and Human Services budget is $18 million. Becker County has a fraud investigator. We are actively looking for fraud in Health and Human Services, and of that 18 million, 7.2 million of that is county dollars. And of that 7.2 million, 7.5 million goes to employees. So this is why I think it's important that we have somebody on the board that understands Health and Human Services so that they can continue to advocate for those programs and ensure that the funding is used most efficiently. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jeffson. Now, the next question, the first speaker will be David Meyer. I'm going to we're getting quite a good input from the audience, try to combine some of these questions. Are there ways the city and county can work more closely together on areas where both common services like roads, law enforcement, and then a question about can city and county buildings be combined? And then an interesting question about what are the county's visions for our beautiful new museum? Now, how's that for a nice, complicated question?
Could you repeat that question?
I don't know if I can, David.
No, yeah.
Are there ways that the city and county can work together more closely on areas that provide common services, common interests, like roads, law enforcement, potentially buildings, such as county buildings, garage kinds of things, I believe is where we're going with that one. And then, as a county commissioner, what would your vision be for our beautiful new museum?
So first of all, I would really like the city and the county to collaborate with things that happen in the city that would affect the county. For example, it would have been a really, really cool thing if the city and the county would have built a nice police/county station with a nice jail instead of having two separate ones. I think it would have been a positive thing for the county and a positive thing for the city. For example, the highway department is here too. We could have one area that is, one big complex that would be, and it probably would be very cost effective because it would be funded by two or maybe three organizations. It would be nice if the county and city could collaborate more. That would be a good positive experience for both, I think. As far as the museum, I have not been over to the new museum, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be a nice facility. I've seen what's been going on driving by, and I'm excited to go in and look at it. I know that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We have to go back to that question for Craig Hall.
Well, to
Did
me,
you get the whole gist of it, Craig?
yeah, I got it. To me, this is one thing I think we definitely need to talk about, and that is that Becker County encompasses more than just Detroit Lakes as far as the city. There's a lot of other towns that are in this. So I get where that question's coming from because I know there's a rift right now between, for whatever reason, the city of Detroit Lakes and the county. That being said, there's a lot of other cities in the county as well, and there's a lot of other areas that are in the county. Ultimately, we have to figure out ways to work together with your different governmental agencies. That means the townships, that means the different municipalities, and the county. bringing that all together, as I can tell you from working within the township now and the government for 12 going on 13 years, there is some collaboration. Could there be more? Probably. Not as easy as what everybody would think, because everybody thinks differently on how they want to, keep their little piece of the pie and work with their little element of things. But I think there's potential there, but it's not as easy as what I think everybody would want to think that it could be. But again, there's more than just one city in the county, and we need to remember that.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, did you get the gist of that
I got the
complicated
gist of it,
question? Thank
yes.
you.
Thank you. I would agree with Craig. I think that, there's probably areas that we could collaborate, but we also need to remember there is much more than just Detroit Lakes. That's one thing that I've heard throughout the door knocking that I've done is, Eastern Becker County kind of feels like they're the forgotten people. So I think we need to look at what's in the best interest of the whole county. As far as the museum goes, I look forward to it opening, and I think I remember in elementary school going to the old museum and learning about our county's history. So I'm looking forward to the youth of this county to be able to go and enjoy it also. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley.
Okay, I think that the city of Detroit Lake, San Frazee, Lake Park, and Audubon all work together very well. Usually we work together in road projects, but I believe that the city and the county have a great working relationship. There is no rift. I think that it's only improved during my tenure of being on the county board. We have worked collaboratively redoing Washington Avenue and Westlake Drive. The county was a grantee of some of the money on the south half of Washington. We gave them money to do some streetscaping and some things that they wanted to do, from the county. It's all taxpayer dollars. When the city was looking at building this law enforcement center, our law enforcement center is connected to the courthouse, as was our jail. We invited them to come in and look at that. We did have an architect study and do some renderings of what could be done to the floors to create space. We wanted the city to move in there, but ultimately it was their decision, and they made a good decision for them long term. But we do always look for ways we can save money. We are collaborating on a fuel station and wash bays on our highway departments. But the county was ready to go on ours, and I'm so glad we did. We got a $10 million bond with various projects and locked in a really great interest rate that we couldn't get at all right now, and the city's not ready to go on theirs. As far as joint buildings, it creates a new joint powers entity, which is almost like another little form of government, because you've got to create a committee and you're now collaborating for the life of that building, 50 plus years. And you've got to jointly fund it, and people use it differently. So it is difficult. I want to have a shout out to Kevin Mitchell and Becky Mitchell from the Becker County Museum. They are just tireless volunteers of that organization, and I thank you so much. And it's going to incorporate aspects of history, science, and children, so they're going to be really driven at reaching children as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. The first speaker on the next question will be Craig Hall. What role do you see the county playing in addressing the county child care shortage?
That's a good question. To me, again, I'm very much a private sector person. So anytime that we have the government basically trying to interfere with the private sector, it makes me concerned. I don't think the private sector should have to compete with the government. I think that is just wrong in every aspect of what we do. The government does not generate any funds. The government just takes your money. And when we're talking about how does the government step in and help with this, there's different things that can be done to try and help people get in business. Reducing regulation would be a huge one. Allowing people to be able to get better interest rates on loans to get started in business so they can get going for themselves, I think is a great deal. But again, reducing regulation, still making sure that there's people that have oversight so that we have a safe place for our kids to go is huge. But again, I'm not a fan of the government coming in and starting daycare or providing daycare. I think that should be something left for the private industry.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, what role do you see the county playing in addressing the child care shortage?
Well, I would agree that the county shouldn't be opening up childcares. That's not what our job is, but we do license them. That is one of our jobs as county, a county department. And we need to, we don't make, the county doesn't make the licensing regulations. That comes from the state. But I do think that we need to look at, or we need to talk to providers that have left the field. In the last, I know COVID, as a result of COVID, we lost a lot of childcare providers. And why are childcare providers leaving? I think that some of it might have to do with the regulations. Some of it might have to do with it's a tough job. I think as a county commissioner, I would be willing to look at I'm vaguely familiar with the licensing requirements. And I think that we need to as a county commissioner, I would advocate for reevaluating them at the state level and seeing what we can do to make it maybe so it isn't as difficult for childcare providers to get in the business. I also think that having the state look at a legally non-licensed childcare provider and see what, if there's anything we can do to lessen the government involvement in childcare. I do, however, I really value our current child care grant that we do have in Becker County through the EDA, and I think that we need to continue it because without child care, it makes it very difficult for parents to go to work. So, thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, what role do you see the county playing in addressing the county child care shortage?
The county has that $10,000 startup grant to get people started up. We also have streamlined as much as possible, because of course it's an issue, the licensing requirements. And then we have an outside contract with people to provide people that are exploring doing that support and just follow up so that they can get licensed as quickly and painlessly as possible. The other thing I could do is just advocate, explain to our legislators how it's affecting Becker County and what kind of regulations, maybe could be changed that would improve our area here. Nobody's ever spelled those out to me, and I'd be interested to know. But I'd like to say thank you to all of our child care providers in the county. It's a critical need and a critical job for our workforce, and a difficult job. And I do think part of it is that the economics of it are broken. It costs so much to put your kids into a daycare facility so that you can work, and you see a lot of people just trying to balance and just stay home or work from home or trade shifts with their spouse, and we'll probably continue to see that as well.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, what role do you see the county playing in addressing our child care shortage?
I would like to see, as a county commissioner, I would like to see what we can do with the state guidelines to make it easier for people to become child care providers. I don't think the county should be offering child care so much. I do think that we do get a grant now and we need to help, but we can also help with, like Ben said, with the monies for starting up businesses. Maybe we can help more child care businesses start. Like, for example, I know the MMCDC does business loans too. Maybe you can get a small business loan that is at a lower interest that you can start up. Some people could start up a child care service. I know it's a big problem. I work at the high school, and I know a lot of teachers that have issues with child care. And when their child care is full, or when their child is sick, they have to stay home. So that puts a strain on the fact that we don't have any people that can sub for teachers anymore. So it's a shortage of people wanting to do that, and I think there's probably a variety of reasons, but I do believe that if the county could advocate to the state for better guidelines and allow people to get those licenses to be childcare providers, I think it would help.
Thank you, David Meyer. The next question, the first speaker will be Erica Jepson. How will you find a balance between protecting our environment from destruction of trees and native vegetation while also encouraging recreation and tourism use, especially given the conflicts between motorized and non-motorized use? Do you want me to run that again?
Nope, I got it. Thank you. Well, I think our natural resources are what makes Becker County so unique. That's what attracts people to our county. We have many lakes and trails in Detroit Mountain and scenic drives with large trees that are really important for us to maintain and consider what can we do to protect them. I think that we need to look at our zoning ordinances and make sure that they are environmentally friendly. We also need to look at how we balance the needs of a property owner with the needs of the community and making sure that they are in balance so that we can continue to attract tourists, but also supporting our environment and protecting our environment so that they want to continue to come here and enjoy our beautiful county. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. Ben Grimsley, how will you find a balance between protecting our environment from destruction of trees and native vegetation while also encouraging recreational and tourism use, especially given the conflicts between motorized and non-motorized use?
I think just designating areas that are going to be more recreational, they're easy to access. We did improve our forest trails, so areas like that, maybe you want more of a older growth, mature forest, and you don't want to see any, erosion, or you could designate it motorized or non-motorized. There is a corridor with, beautiful, majestic white and red pines that has been set aside for non-logging. That's very enjoyable up by Many Point Camp. So more of that. One of the things is our county comprehensive plan will most likely be updating our zoning plan and just strategic plan. Will probably be updated in 2023 here. It's due for a overhaul. It's over 20 years old, and I'd like to be on the board when that takes place.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, how will you find the balance? Do you need the whole thing?
No, I'm good.
Good.
First of all, I think one of the big attractions in Becker County is our environment. We have awesome trees, we have awesome lakes, we have just beautiful area. And we need to make sure that we are very aware of protecting that, because that is our environment is what we live in. It's the most important thing that we have. And but with that being said, we also have to understand that people own property and they might want to do things. So there has to be a balance between what environmentally we should do and do we allow people to do certain things in the property. So that's where it comes into zoning. And I think, like Mr. Grimsley said, in 2023, we're going to reevaluate our zoning laws and regulations. And I would definitely like to be the county commissioner that is a part of that.
Thank you, David Meyer. Craig Hall, how will you find the balance?
To me, the biggest thing we need to really focus on, everyone, is looking at the designation of having actual designated ATV trails. I think that's the biggest one right now that there's issues with. Snowmobiles, there's tons of snowmobile trails. They use them in the wintertime. Come spring, you don't even really know where they've been. However, on the ATVs, it's a different issue. People definitely see that damage and they want it addressed. I think we definitely want those tourism dollars. There's a lot of money that's coming into this county by that, more than what people realize because of how much manufacturing is going on here as well to support that. And again, it's a phenomenal place to come and recreate. If we have designated ATV trails, those I think are going to help to try and improve and keep people on them. I also think we need to, again, push the enforcement aspect of it. I was one of the ones that, as part of the Snowmobile Club, we voted and pushed through the resolution supporting it at the state level to increase the enforcement for trespassing laws. You can't be on other people's property. stay where you're supposed to be, enjoy it, maintain it, and I think there can be a real good balance between the motorized and the non-motorized. We've got phenomenal Tamarack Wildlife Refuge up here. We've got the Smoky Hills, beautiful area. Can have trails in there. There's roads. Keep them on those, keep them in the designated areas, and enforce the use and maintaining of that.
Thank you, Craig Hall. We're winding down, folks. We're getting there. The first speaker on this question will be Ben Grimsley. How would you equitably address road maintenance issues in this county?
That is done through our highway department. I think they do a really great job. We have a 5-year capital improvement plan, and we rely on engineering and quantitative data to tell us, you know, what's in the worst shape and where are we going to get the most bang for our buck. We also try to clump together areas in the county when we do a big contract, multiple roads, so that the mobilization, you know, costs are confined to one area. And we really can support our roads without tax levy dollars. We're doing it with the sales tax money, and the money we get reimbursed from us through the gas tax that's collected, federal money that gets granted to us, and then state money that comes back to us for our state aid roads.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. David Meyer, how would you equitably address road maintenance issues in the county?
I think our highway department does a very good job of planning and organizing what roads need to be worked on at what times. And as Mr. Grimsley said, they also try to clump together so that the transportation and of the equipment isn't as expensive and so forth. There's the person in charge of that, the engineers that do that, I think they do a good job. They're good county employees, and I would, as a county administrator, or county commissioner, sorry, not a county administrator, would trust that they would do their jobs. In order to make sure that employees are appreciated again, that you have to be able to trust that the people you hire will do the job that you expect them to do.
Thank you, David Meyer. Craig Hall, how would you equitably address road maintenance?
To me, there's two aspects of it. One you have is the day-to-day maintenance, and I've heard it very loud and clear from the people in the eastern part of the county that the roads are not, specifically in the wintertime, plowed in a very timely fashion. I would love to see some remote locations for equipment and people so that we're addressing and getting to snow removal earlier in the morning in the eastern half of the county. There used to be one in Wolf Lake. I would love to see maybe there or in Osage come back to where we actually have equipment that's over in there to better maintain those roads on the what I consider the day-to-day stuff in those areas. As far as the major road rebuilds, repair, et cetera, I think you got to really start drilling into how we go about putting out for bids. To me, I think that we've done a fairly decent job. However, I'm not a fan for some of the things that have been done lately. If you look at Highway 37, if you go north of 34 up towards Shell Lake, that road is in way worse shape now than it was when we started. It's a disaster. If you talk to anybody who runs a truck up and down that road, they're probably spending a lot of money at the dentist and or at the chiropractor. And those things, to me, are totally unacceptable. And in those situations, I'm going to hold people accountable. Things need to be better planned. Expectations need to be put out there. When you're putting out for contracts, again, just kind of like I said to the employees, clear expectations, and then you're holding people accountable. And that's what I would do.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson.
Thank you. I agree with Craig. When out talking to people in Eastern Becker County, you hear a lot of concerns about the roads and that they feel like, again, they're paying their taxes, but they're not getting, they're not seeing the benefit of it, especially when it comes to their roads. I think that the road maintenance and the day-to-day snow plowing is really an issue in Eastern Becker County. While I was out door knocking, I was talking to a farmer who said that he used to hate having to leave Becker County when he was hauling cattle because Becker County had such good roads. And he told me now he looks forward to leaving Becker County because our roads are in such poor condition, especially out in eastern Becker County. So I think that's something that we need to look at, and what can we do to make sure that we're taking care of our roads and we're taking care of them appropriately with the right people doing it. So thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. All right, the last question. A question has been put out also that what steps would you take to be transparent as a county commissioner? And maybe as you wrap up, you will keep that thought in mind. For the challengers, the last question is, what specific steps have you taken? Let me see, who was the first one here? It would be David, no, it's Craig Hall. What specific steps have you taken to prepare for the office being sought? And how would you describe your familiarity with the legislative process?
Well, again, I'll go back to my experience. Started and ran my own business. Worked in the private sector as an executive level, where you're the one who's responsible for signing on the front side of the check, not on the back. If somebody doesn't get paid, it needs to be you. You need to take care of everybody who works for you, and that is a lot of what's going on in this county right now. In addition, I have worked in the public sector, representing the people of Heideland Township. I've been on the board for 13 years. When I got on the board, we were always basically to the point of being in the red or in the black. Now we have a different issue. We almost have too much money. We have not raised our levy $1 since I got on the board. We built a brand new town hall, never borrowed $1 to do it. And I think we've done a phenomenal job managing the expectations of the residents in there. All of those things have kind of led me into this position of, again, understanding how to manage your money, knowing and listening to the people that are there, not being self-serving, but serving others. If you're doing this for any other reason other than to serve the people in the community and the district which you're in it for the wrong reason. Sadly, I think we've got a lot of politicians that are doing that these days. I think we've had a very good group for the most part in this county. There's been a lot of real good things. If you listen to some of the numbers that Mr. Grimsley has said, there's a lot of good things for people to be proud of here. We need to keep it going that direction. And I think some of the experiences that I've had between my military experience, public service, and or as a business owner have prepared me to represent you in a proper way.
Thank you, Craig Hall. Erica Jepson, what specific steps have you taken to prepare for the office being sought? And how would you describe your familiarity with the legislative process?
Well, I've been a government employee for 11 years, with 8.5 of that being at Becker County. I'm very familiar with many of the departments in Becker County, and I'm willing to continue to build my relationships with them. I have talked to Becker County residents, and I know the needs, and every single one of them that I've talked to has my phone number. They know how to get a hold of me, and I think that's important as a county commissioner, because as a county commissioner, the only way you know what the needs of the community are is if they know how to get a hold of you. I also think that it is important for us to be a transparent government. One of the things that I was running on was making sure that our county board meetings are recorded so that people that aren't able to go to the meetings know what's going on, because we as citizens need to know what happens in the day-to-day decision-making of our county, that we know how our county dollars are being met. One thing that you can know as a county commissioner is that I will make fiscally responsible decisions. I will be accessible, transparent, and honest. And I look forward to hopefully representing District 1 for the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Erica Jepson. David Meyer, what specific steps have you taken to prepare for the office being sought? And how would you describe your familiarity with the legislative process?
Well, first of all, I am a very big proponent of transparent leadership. We're spending, but we're managing and spending other people's money, so they need to know exactly what we're doing with their money, and that's a big deal. And then I've been also, like I stated several times before, I've been a business owner for 17 years, so I have developed experience with budgeting and managing money. I have a successful business, so I must be doing something right. I've been a teacher at Detroit Lakes High School for the past 25 years. Okay, with both of those combined, I've been able to develop that positive professional relationship with employees and colleagues, and that is probably one of the biggest aspects that our county needs. And as county commissioner, I will be able to do that because I've been endorsed by the union, and I've already got a start on that. So that would be a positive thing that I can bring to the table as a county commissioner. I also will work very hard to make sure that I am educated on issues so that I can make sound and informative decisions. And that's important to me because I've learned to do that in my experiences as a teacher and as a business owner and just as a person in life. You have to know what you're doing in order to make a sound, informative decision. And then finally, I will work very hard to retain and hire quality employees that are dedicated to serving the citizens of Becker County. Thank you.
Thank you, David Meyer, and to the incumbent, Ben Grimsley. The last question, if you are reelected, what one big issue do you see the county facing, and what ideas do you have for addressing it?
No, I already addressed that question previously, so I'm just going to talk about how I'm prepared for the job. I've done this. This is my third term. We do have, our board is turning over. I wouldn't be surprised at all in the next 2 years if you see other board members potentially retire from the job. I want to stick around. We've got some long-range planning that I want to be there for. I'm young enough to continue doing that, and prior to Commissioner Varberg joining the board, I did have the shortest tenure on our board. Some of the ways that I prepare, I read the city's board packet every month, at least go through the agenda and read the areas I want to. I look at their development authority minutes, I look at their planning and zoning minutes. How I can be transparent, when I'm the board chair, I always show up on Hodgepodge. Nathan Bowe always covers our meetings, and I try to explain why we think the way we think so that you guys can get that feedback. And when I was elected 10 years ago, I asked for our meetings to be recorded because the city of Detroit Lakes was, and it was on TV3, and I thought that was good. The board did not want to do that, but I can tell you just recently, 10 years later, we started recording our meetings, and they will be available for viewing anytime. So I'm very happy with that. You know, one of the things this job requires is you have to start at 8 in the morning, 8:15. I've got committees at 10. I've got committees at noon, 1:30, and 5. Some of them you travel for, and some of them you don't. But my primary job is not a teacher, and I'm not funded by the taxpayer. I'm always employed by myself. And so when I'm doing this county work, you know, there's no conflict of time there. I think it's going to be very challenging to hold a job where you're working for the public already and take on a second responsibility where you're working for the public. I also think it's a conflict of interest to be endorsed by a collective bargaining unit when really our job as board of directors are to negotiate for you guys and get a fair deal. So I'd like you all to think about that as you prepare for the election. Early voting has started on the 23rd, and after the city and school board candidates meet here on Wednesday, hopefully some of you will take advantage of that.
Thank you, Ben Grimsley. Well, that concludes our questions. I think we can agree we have 4 excellent candidates, and let's give them a round of applause. And I'd like to give a round of applause to this wonderful audience. You've stuck with it, and it's been, I think, a long and informative evening. I hope you've enjoyed it. There's information from the candidates, some of the candidates out in the hall. There's also more information about the state approach to the voting process. So thank you so much for coming. And thank you, ladies from the league, for helping with the evening. Thank you.